If any one of you could be a race of Middle Earth, let's go around the horn. What would you be?
We love elves, but we really love dwarves. Dwarves are so awesome too.
They're really cool.
Seriously, we feel like dwarves, often are just the butt of jokes, and we're going to take dwarves really seriously. They're a really cool culture with their own mythology, spirituality, history, and we think there's cool things to be able to be done with dwarves.
No, 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 no.
Can you confirm or deny that the female dwarves depicted in this series have beards?
I can confirm that they have facial hair, yes. I was there at 3 o'clock in the morning as each hair was lovingly applied one by one to make them regal and glorious. Can't wait for you to see more of it. You see it very well in the show.
And you're going to meet Sophie in the books, it sure felt like that's what Tolkien was saying too, so that's what we did.
How daunting is it to take on the material knowing how sacred it is to the legions of Lord of the Rings fans out there?
So we had the privilege of working with Tolkien scholars like Tom Shippey and amazing linguists, and also had lore masters that were part of our writers' room that would always be there to help us make sure we were really honoring both the letter and the spirit of Legendarium. But Tolkien gave us all these amazing clues.
Did I just see a Balrog at the end of that? Are there things for your storytelling that have implied depth into the Second Age that actually have events in the Third Age that you move into the Second Age?
The Second Age is so enormously vast and huge that I don't think there's much room for anything from the Third Age, but maybe somewhere down the road, who knows what can happen. Balrogs are sneaky. Balrogs are sneaky. It sure felt like that's what Tolkien was saying too, so that's what we did.
Why is there a Hobbit story in the Second Age, JD?
Because it's actually not technically a Hobbit story, it's a Harfoot story. And so Tolkien doesn't say anything about Harfoots not having done anything amazing in the Second Age. He says that Hobbits before the Third Age didn't do anything impressive. So we felt we had license there to go ahead and tell a good Harfoot story. It sure felt like that's what Tolkien was saying too, so that's what we did.
The war, at last, was ended.
In a world of remakes and remasters,
are we playing for keeps?
what was once sacred and cool has now soured and become lame. Gone are the days of Pons and Cowabunga. Now is the reign of slurp juice and dabs. Kids these days don't even know how bad they've got it. Now it's up to the best generation to rise to the occasion and make a show that dares to go where a lot of other nerdy shows have already gone quite a bit. That's right. They're going to talk about it a lot.
Hello and welcome back to the show. Can you guys hear me fine? I was having some microphone trouble during the video. Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's my favorite thing that I do because the show's called Best Gen. It's the show where we're a bunch of nerds complain about nerdy things, and I love talking about nerdy things. The show's called Best Gen because we all happen to be from the same gen. We happen to think that it's the best, but we're very accepting and loving of people of all ages, except minors. That's gross. But it doesn't matter when you were born. You're welcome to watch the show, just as long as you can acknowledge that those slap bracelets were the kind of gifts that you would give to your worst enemy. So.
I had fun with those slap bracelets.
Yeah, I've had a lot of worst enemies.
They hurt. Those things hurt if you get it right.
Yeah. What's good is to get them and you slap them on your worst enemy.
There you go.
You don't give them to them as a gift. You slap them on them yourself.
I don't know. If you thought that those hurt, I don't know what to tell you, because that doesn't sound. They never hurt for me. I don't know. My threshold of pain might have been a little bit higher. Maybe I had a meaner older brother than you did.
Yeah, some of us had mean older brothers. Some of us didn't have the privilege of having nice older siblings.
I plead the fifth on that one.
We just have to get into this every week, don't we? David peed on me. Okay, so
I thought it was his friend.
Yeah, he was complicit.
He's changing the story all the time. This is gaslighting.
David was complicit, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend, or something like that. No. What's the thing that like if you don't stop something, you're equally. There's a law. There's a precedent.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah.
If you're like, hey, let's go. If your best friend's like, hey, let's go murder a guy, and you don't like do anything to stop it. You're
an accessory.
Yeah, you're an accessory.
So David was an accessory to peeing.
Yeah, David was an accessory to me getting peed on in the woods. And then almost dying. So
all right then.
But we love each other. Yeah, we have got a lot to cover tonight. We'll be talking about the season, possibly series finale of Raised by Wolves, and we've got a lot of bad takes. Oh, excuse me. We've got some.
Oh, you mean Screen Rant has some bad takes? I see.
We've got a lot of bad takes to go over. Wow. We've got a lot to say about the Rings of Power because they had a Comic-Con panel. I don't know if you saw the intro video, but I memed on it a little bit, and I only got through the first interview. There's three more. So
yeah, that was pretty damning.
We've got that. I've got some funny memes, and we've got a little grievance to air, I think.
Hopefully, if we can get to it.
Yeah. So let's. All right. Let's start off talking Raised by Wolves and see if Corwin shows up. He was supposed to be on, but now his phone's going straight to voicemail, and I haven't heard him text me back. So we'll give him a little bit of time to maybe show up later, and if not, we'll have to get into everything by ourselves, by our lonesome, a lowly panel of three. But if you're in the chat, the panelists aren't the only people who can air their grievances. You feel free to send us a message if you have a grievance that you would like discussed publicly. We can tell you who's in the right and who's in the wrong, but the only stipulation is you do have to accept our judgment. So let us know if you want to air your dirty laundry. Let's talk about Raised by Wolves, guys. It's the finale, season 2.
Yeah,
it's finally
spoilers, by the way.
3 months ago or something.
Yeah, it came out like 3 months ago, but I had to force you guys to watch it so I could talk about it.
Didn't force us to do anything.
It's good, right?
We introduced a good show, and just
what you guys
kept
think?
us hooked.
It's a wild one for sure.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of crazy, weird stuff happens as per usual. Probably a lot more crazier than normal.
A lot of questions get answered, though.
Yeah.
And then a couple more are presented.
Yeah.
Just a few.
just one big one, really. Because why is he upside down?
Well, why does he then start floating, and what does that mean?
So was that the thing that was it?
Yes.
Tanner guessed.
Yes.
A long time ago.
Yes, he made an offhand. So in season 1, there are some allusions to Peter, the apostle, getting crucified upside down, and it's like way in the background, like drawings on walls, and stuff like that. And he noticed it. He's like, oh yeah, I think it's like when they're in the simulation, there's like this imagery and stuff like that. For the Mithraic religion, and so he talks. He just briefly brought it up. He's like, "Oh, it was a really nice touch seeing all this Christian mythology and stuff like that." And I was just like, I had to bite my tongue so hard. I was like, "Yeah, no,
real interesting
upside down crucifixion. That's it happens." So
my money was on that. His offhand comment was about Tempest and Hunter getting together, which almost looks like maybe kind of might sort of happen, because again, Hunter finally did start becoming a great character.
Hunter's great. Hunter's the best of the kids now.
Yeah, he really is. He's become pretty darn cool.
And he started off as definitely
the worst.
100% the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, he was so bad, making terrible decisions. His loyalty was all over the place, and you're like, oh my goodness, this guy's an idiot, just making every wrong choice every turn.
Yeah, and then in the finale,
he stepped up. He's awesome.
And then in the finale, he murders a grieving mom creature, and takes Tempest's baby. And I guess he's just gonna be a dad now.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week a little bit. But either way, like, I didn't love the fact that he was like, "Yeah, I don't really care what you're saying," but at the same time, I do totally get it, because it's like, yeah, that is kind of a monster. And yeah. It was an interesting little thing where it's like, I can't totally disagree with you, but it was an odd feeling to be like, but she said,
oh, I would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah. Well, and what
okay, nope.
What I particularly love was the idea that he's like, well, okay, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to at least take care of it. Like, I'm not going to force you to actually take care of it, but I'm going to do it if you're not. So I appreciated that. That was really good.
And the kid was getting webbed hands and feet from getting that monster milk.
Yeah, that was interesting.
He's not changing its DNA.
He's not the only one that turns into a fish.
Yeah.
So we got to talk about grandmother. Well, I guess first we got to talk about Snick.
Beta Snick. Number 9.
Flying tentacle snake.
Number 7.
Yeah. Yep, and she lured it in. I hadn't noticed they mentioned it in the like show review or whatever that was at the end, which they've been really inconsistent with whether they have like a previously on or like upcoming next week or whatever. But they reviewed the fact that and I didn't catch it, that Mother lured it in with a lullaby, and it was the same lullaby that she used to put Campion to sleep, I think, way back when. So when she lures it up into the sky, she's legitimately luring, and not just like, hey, I'm coming up here, you better come after me. And it tries to get a little bit of nourishment, and she's like, yeah, nope.
And then she kills it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then it grows back into a tree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was interesting.
Yeah. So is it dead? I don't know.
Or is that maybe somehow Mary back? Because it ate the tree and that was Mary?
I don't know.
Thought about that.
But it was a tree though. It wasn't a person. I don't know. It was weird.
Right, but Mary turned into a tree, right?
Right.
And then it ate the Mary tree.
Yeah.
And when it died, it flopped down, and then suddenly a tree popped up. Like, maybe that was Mary coming back out of it somehow.
Maybe it's the same tree, or it's an offspring of the tree or something.
As much as I love, like, Mary is probably my favorite character of the whole show, I would hate for them to bring her back.
Yeah.
Marcus, on the other hand, like, it implied that he was dead. Right. like he bleeds out, like he gets stabbed and crucified upside down and bleeds out
with the mask
but
too.
But then he's floating, and so I think his body is going to be, or it would have been like a vessel, for the source, or something, or maybe the he's being artificially kept alive, but because he was like brought to the brink of death, like that allowed this science magic, whatever it happens to happen. I don't know. But I would be fine if Marcus came back because he is easily the most interesting character.
I would find that interesting to see what would happen with that. What would happen with that? Yeah, if it's like a possession sort of thing, or because we already know Marcus is technically not Marcus; he's Caleb. So that actor has been multiple people so far.
I think what they could do is he could be like mind controlled for a while and then get like snap out of it eventually, because he's just too good of an antagonist, protagonist, like
whatever he is.
He's just too good to not be included.
He's good talent for sure. He's probably the best
actor.
Yeah.
Well, he was definitely the biggest name on the show.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone else was pretty much a no name. He came from being Ragnar Lothbrok from Vikings,
Vikings.
But yeah, he's got acting chops. He's been all over the place, from a guy you're rooting for to a guy that you absolutely despised. And then in the last
kind of start rooting for him again.
Yeah, you start rooting for him again, and it's like, okay, well now him and Mother are on the same team, and oh crap, now he's dead. Oh, now he's like some anti-reverse necromancer corpse thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's weird.
That was bizarre. Very wild for sure.
I would hope though that the guy who kills him takes more of a center stage, and
I have like
I can never remember his name though.
It's the son of the original leader guy.
I think he makes an interesting baddie.
Yeah, I was saying this just a little bit earlier, but it's really It was really interesting to be like, hey, we've got everything. Oh, that's right. He's the one person that doesn't realize that this extra, this voice inside his head is probably not a good thing.
Yeah, it's odd because he knew about the cards being warnings, but he was the only one who, like, no one told the voice.
So my question though is how, because
the explosion of the snake disrupted the EMF too. So,
but didn't that happen? Didn't the snake blow a hole in the EMF shield after he had already heard the voice? Or was that?
I don't know if we know for sure, because we only see him once, after that, because we see that's when he kidnaps.
We also know that people were hearing the voice underneath the EMF. Like Sue heard it through the shield, but now
that's true. So that
was like an antenna.
But they said that the source that was being broadcast couldn't penetrate the EMF. So how come it can all of a sudden?
If it focuses really hard, it can talk to one person at a time.
Maybe.
Well, and I think last week we were talking about maybe the tree was some sort of a connection that allowed it through.
Yeah, some sort of conduit, some antenna or something that would let it communicate. That would make sense.
And I think there was also something that hinted at the idea that I thought that it had to be hinted at the idea that hearing the voice usually meant that you had some sort of trauma or something like that.
Maybe.
Or and so
no, hold on, that doesn't make sense though, because Sue heard the voice telling her to plant the seed before the tree was even done.
That's why I was saying the thing about the trauma, because it was her trauma of feeling like Paul was going to be lost that inspired that. And so I don't know.
I think it's Mouse.
Could be the mouse.
That's how it was, because a mouse fell down the hole and then was brought back as a conduit for the signal. So that's how he's talking to Paul.
But then the mouse,
then something gets transferred to. Sue's carrying around the seed frequently, and her son. Maybe it's contagious, so it spreads from him to her.
Well, that we've seen it. It has precedent to be contagious before, because before it was only talking to one person and it jumped, after those two people came in contact. So first it was talking with the presumably the rapist guy on the colony back in season 1, but then when they land, it starts talking to Marcus, right? And then he can't hear it anymore, and it starts talking to Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And then after they meet up, and then from Paul it jumps to his mom, right? Like we don't see anybody hear the voice for a while because they're in the tropical zone, but then somehow Mary Sue hears it, and then at the end it jumps to the other Mithraig dude.
Yeah.
So it does seem like it's only one person that's predominantly hearing that at a time, and it does seem to be jumping.
And that might all change now that the EMF is down.
The EMF, but yeah, it still doesn't make sense.
But even on the other side of the planet, though, it was still one at a time.
Just one at a time.
Yeah. But so it doesn't make sense.
I think the EMF it was protecting something else.
Yeah,
I think the same
so
entity,
too.
but it wasn't protecting them from hearing the voice. It was affecting other things.
But even more interesting,
maybe the direct manipulation, which is probably why, like it could even be mind control. But that's why grandmother turns them all into fishes, so that they aren't like intelligent beings, so that they can't be manipulated by the source.
Yep. Well, the source will go away.
I think the EMF was blocking something stronger than just being able to hear his voice.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting when we were talking about the idea of Sue maybe being some sort of a channel or antenna once she became the tree. That the idea that the entity is perhaps inside the planet.
It's got to be
that's
the
what
core.
was presumed. Yeah,
it has to be the core.
Sue said that she found out that there was a signal and it's being transmitted from the core.
But I didn't remember that part.
It can't penetrate the EMF zone.
Yeah,
she said that specifically to Mother.
I didn't remember that she said it came from the core, like that she could tell it was coming. I thought she just said she couldn't tell where it was coming from or something like that. But
yeah. So my theory is that the planet is some kind of prison.
Yeah.
For whatever is trapped in the core, and it's trying to escape somehow.
Yep. That makes sense.
But it needs intelligent life to escape.
Well, you heard it say in the last episode that the grandmother says once the snake was turned into a weapon, the grandmother says it will try and destroy the planet.
The snake?
And they said, and she says, why would it do that? Yes, she said the snake, now that it's weaponized, its goal will be to destroy the planet. And they say, why? And they said, the humans spent a long time trying to figure that out. Well, if the planet is destroyed, then the entity can escape.
Can be free, yeah.
Maybe so, yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah,
I thought it was interesting that the snake basically, because it came through Mother and her emotional programming, was getting overly focused on Campion because it was jealous of him, and then
it was displaying alternate feelings and motives than the prime directive for the regular snakes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, very very interesting, but
the way that Mother got covered with that veil was really interesting too, where she's like, this is causing a problem. Wait, I can't take it off. And it just suddenly, I'm like, that looks exactly like what happened to Paul.
Yeah.
And then, you get the whole reveal with Mother or with Grandmother, and you're like, okay, yeah.
And she's turning them all into fish.
Well, and it's interesting too, because it has kind of a, I don't know, I remember feeling this way from the way that they set up Incredibles 2, where it's like, you're just sitting in front of a screen. Like, she's trying to get them to sit in front of a screen and just start being more vegetative. And so it has a little bit of a commentary on us, sitting in front of screens as we're talking to you viewers through a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you just turn off this live stream and then you won't get turned into a snake cocoon?
Fish person?
I think that's the moral of the story.
Something like that.
Don't watch my live stream. So, man, it's such
you don't watch this video.
It's such a good show. Like, it makes me so sad that it's canceled.
I'm going to be curious to see what they do with it because I agree with you that I could see the creators, if they can't get it renewed anywhere, doing at least
doing
a
a comic book.
Yeah.
But it's so brilliant. The storytelling is so like subtle and layered, and there's so much foreshadowing. And when you get these big reveals, it it never feels like, oh, okay, that's a weird twist that you threw in there so that you can have a twist. Like when they throw in these reveals, it's
like,
of course, that's what you've been building up to this whole time.
Yep.
That's how you do good. That's how you do good stuff. That's how you make good stories. It's so good.
I hope it gets picked up by another studio. I'm hoping for Amazon. Even though they're putting out other stuff, it's something I'm already paying for, and not all the stuff Amazon puts out is bad. So,
and Amazon could be a contender because the Expanse just ended for them, so they don't have like a big sci-fi series.
Big sci-fi thing, yeah, that's good. I'm just hoping it's not Apple Plus because that's one I don't have yet.
Honestly, I could care less who picks it up. I will give money to whoever does.
Yeah. I've heard really good things about most of the stuff on Apple Plus, even if it hasn't sounded interesting to you. Everything that I've heard people talk about, they're generally pretty positive on. I don't have any interest in the morning show, but people are saying the morning show is really interesting. I thought that the concept of For All Mankind looked kind of interesting, and I've heard good things. Everybody's raving about Ted Lasso, and
Ted Lasso is good. Yeah.
I keep getting.
I've heard a lot of bad things about Foundation, though. Unless is that Peacock or is that Apple?
I'm not sure. I don't remember. I know I've heard of it, but I don't remember what else I've heard of.
It's got to be Apple.
Yeah, all I know is I keep getting commercials for Apple Plus, and most of them are like, that looks so dumb. I think there was one that looked interesting. I think it might have been For All Mankind.
I do have to laugh because I've got the commercial version of HBO, and I'm like, why do I see commercials for their competitor streaming services here? Like I'm seeing Disney Plus and Apple Plus, and I'm like,
they pay for it.
Yeah, it's the same when you go to the movie theater too. Half of the commercials for the movie theater.
For other theaters.
Go to Amazon. Go to Amazon Prime. Go to watch Disney Plus. It's like, I think it's funny. You go to a theater and the commercials are, hey, stay at home, watch the stuff at home.
But I wonder too, because I think that the streaming versus the theaters, there's a little bit of competition there. But the more and more that you're seeing, most of the places are seeing that, like, it's good to have it in the theaters first for a little while and then come to the streaming, and so they benefit from that. So they're not necessarily competition. They can be, if they don't set themselves up right. Like, again, the studios have been doing a lot of skipping the theaters for the streaming, and that doesn't work, and it hasn't worked.
HBO has done that a lot, but Disney Plus, you're right. They have them in the theater, and then like a month or two later, they come on Disney Plus, which I think is a fine idea. If it's something I don't care to see in the theater, I'll wait. I'll just see it on Disney Plus.
And it seems to work really well for them. And always get some extra prestige from the box office that it got, and then it shows up and you're like, ooh, everybody liked that. I better,
Yeah.
A lot of transitions going on with that, the way that it, but yeah, it's not like you're in an AMC theater and you hear an ad for a Regal theater or a Cinemark, or you're like, wait, what? I don't know. If they're paying for it and if they're willing to take money from each other, but it feels like it's weird. I don't know.
Yeah. And Foundation is Disney, or is Apple Plus. I just saw.
Yeah, I'd never heard of For All Mankind. I want to watch that trailer.
Again, the concept seemed really interesting. Hey, we didn't make it to the moon first. What happens then? To me, it had. I never watched it, but I heard really good things about Man in the High Castle and some of those other like alternate history shows, and it seems like it has that same feel of like alternate premise, and let's see what the world looks like, with this slightly different thing. And I always love those.
Man in the High Castle was really good. The first two seasons were just phenomenal. And then the third season gets really sexual, like out of the blue. And it was just too much. So it was like nudity just thrown in there randomly. And I was like, what the heck is this? And I never, they had the fourth and final season. I never watched it.
Never finished it.
I'll get around to it eventually, but it's just.
It's what I've heard good things about. I just haven't really.
It was really good. The first two seasons were fantastic. And I do want to finish it eventually because it's an intriguing story, but.
I do like their the theme is a great rendition of Edelweiss.
Yes. It's a very haunting, beautiful
That would be
theme.
that would be a fun one to listen to. I always like that song from. I mean, you know it from Sound of Music, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed.
Well, someone please renew Raised by Wolves. I will give you my money.
Yes.
Deal?
give me all of your money and I will renew.
I think I've been dying to hear your grievance, David.
Yeah, you want to do that now?
I want to get into your grievance, but first I've got a quick, incredibly nuanced segment. Let me play this to you.
Incredibly nuanced.
Now, I get a lot of news articles in my feed, which is why I started doing the Screen Rant's Bad Takes. But sometimes the news articles that I see, they don't really have a position. Sometimes they're asking questions, that make us, self-reflect and think about the world and what lies in our future. And so I wanted to talk about one of these questions that a news article presented that I saw in my feed. So here we go. The direct Captain America 4 announced. Is Chris Evans returning? Nope.
Yeah, he kind of signed off from Captain America.
He's dead.
Incredibly nuanced.
He's just old.
David, do you want to share your grievance?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, we got another stinger for you, baby. I like making stingers. I probably have too many. Here we go.
If you have a problem, we have a solution. We solve global warming and ended all pollution. Now, but you don't have to pay us any heathens. You just have to tweet us, #air your grievance.
Nice. I like the additions. Yep.
I have more time to work on it. Because David's been teasing agreements for the last 3 weeks. All right.
Such a tease, David.
Take it away, David.
So let's do this. Let's bring over. We're gonna do just like you did here. So we got Microsoft Paint. Okay.
And for anyone who's listening in the comments, your grievances do not have to be as complex as mine was or David's. If you can tweet me pictures too. If you want to have visual aids, that's totally fine. So you have timeline.
Whoa.
Okay.
All right. So this is the timeline, right? See, it's beautiful.
Right.
All right.
Gorgeous.
So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna bring up this here. This page looks familiar.
Oh yeah.
It?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Unbeknownst to some of you, maybe perhaps, this show, Best Gen, started off as a Wheel of Time after show, and right here, this is the very first episode, right? You see this? Let's see. We're gonna pull this up. Okay. We're gonna pause that. We're gonna pause that. Okay. So let's look at this date. Okay. So November 29th. That's your first show, the precursor to Best Gen. Okay. So we're gonna do November 29th.
Okay.
Okay. And this is
I don't know where you're going with this.
This is 2021. Okay. Right. Yeah. November 29th. Okay. Let's see. What date is it today? So here's going to be today. This is going to be
July 31st.
July. Yeah, indeed. 31st. Oh my goodness. My mouse just jumped. It was weird. 2022. Okay, so that's today. All right. Let's see. You've had so for this one, for some reason, you went through the first 4 episodes of Wheel of Time. I guess you were slacking.
Right.
Yeah. So that's episode number 1. Let's look at the guests that you have on here.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's yourself, right?
Yeah.
Handsome man, nice trim beard. There's Jared Prime, and Nathan. We haven't seen him in a while, right?
Yeah.
I noticed there's only 2 guests here.
Yeah.
That's interesting, and one of them is not myself.
Yeah, that's true.
Just noting that. Okay.
You hadn't read the Wheel of Time, and
okay. So
you haven't
the
started
second
watching
one,
the show yet.
Look at this. The second thumbnail, that's me right there. So I'm in the second episode.
Yeah, because you started watching the show.
Yeah. So that's the second episode. Let's get a date on that. Should we get a date on that?
It was a week later.
It should be a week later, but
it might have been 6 days actually, because I think we changed the day that we were doing the show on.
It might have been.
Well, the first episode wasn't live either. We recorded it.
Let's be as accurate as possible. So December 5th, right?
This was the first one that we did a live stream.
Yeah. December 5th. Yeah. And this was still.
If we haven't lost all of our viewers already, I'm sure we have now. But keep going.
Okay. So you see, let's move forward here to make sure. Oh yeah, see that wasn't a fluke.
Yeah.
Right there. There's me. Oh look, there's a Christmas tree because this is in December, right before the year turned, from 2021 to 2022. So there we go. There's a second show. Okay, you've had a number of shows before, right? And then at some point, it went from an after show to the show we know and love today, right? Best Gen.
Yeah, because there wasn't any more Wheel of Time to talk about.
Exactly. So the name changed. So and then there's been lots of other episodes right here, right? And today we are on what? This is the 27th episode.
It's a good number.
Of Wheel of Time. Okay, that's right here. Best Gen. Yep, Best Gen right here. That's where we are.
Plus like 6 episodes of after show.
Wheel of Time.
Plus the after show, right? Yes.
I think it was 7, maybe 7.
Mm-hmm. So my grievance is right here. Why was I not included?
Because you haven't watched the show.
You have had so many episodes. Do you know how many episodes across the entire board since I've been invited on the show that I've missed?
Like 2, I think.
No, like 1.
Weren't you like really late? Weren't you like really late one time?
1 show. I still made it.
Better late than never.
Answer this
question. If you show up to to school to a class 30 minutes late, do they count you as tardy or absent?
It depends on if you're in high school or college.
So how late did
college? Most of the classes that I took in engineering, they didn't even care if you showed up at all.
Well, that's clearly not what I'm asking about then. So your grievance is I didn't invite you the first time?
Yes. Where was I?
You hadn't watched the show.
I had watched the show. I was caught up right there with the show. So I didn't read the books yet. I hadn't read the books.
Okay.
But I watched the show.
Can I point out, David, that the first show on November 29th wasn't even a live stream.
Okay.
It was pre-recorded with my 2 cousins who had read the books.
Yes.
And you hadn't read the books.
And so you talked about...
The entire episode we were talking about, what's the difference between the books and the TV show?
Uh-huh.
And then we liked doing it so much, we decided to live stream. And I thought, hey, it would also be interesting to bring on someone who hasn't read the books.
Yes.
Now that we've already talked about the books, and he can compare as virgin eyes to the TV show. So you're upset that retroactively I didn't think of including you on a discussion where you would have nothing to say?
Yes.
I think retroactively that's probably the reason that he stood aside when when his friend peed on you.
It all makes sense.
I also like Martina's comment. Where is your nepotism, man?
I invited you to the first live stream ever, David. Why are you complaining?
Yes, because you had a show before that I wasn't.
I had a YouTube channel before that. You weren't in any of those. You did help.
Actually, I filmed one.
Okay. I realized I misspoke. I realized you helped me film my most viewed video.
Yes, your
but it was my idea.
Video. Let's take a look at that one, shall we? Let's see, which one is it? This one right here. Wow, 8.6K views.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Ooh.
Yeah. I helped you film that one, bro.
Yeah, because I
Let's
asked.
see. Let's put that in the timeline. Where did this show up?
Are you upset that I asked you to help me make a video? You have a real funny way of convincing me to keep you on the show.
Maybe that's what he's working
All
on.
I'm saying is I've been your most loyal viewer and most loyal show
Participant.
participant, yes. And all I deserve is a little respect.
I'm going to have to agree with him that you need to retroactively invite him to that.
Yes, thank you. That's all I want.
Yep.
All right. Okay. I will accept defeat. Obviously, I'm getting ganged up on 2v1, but I will concede that I should have invited you to the first recording, and so to make up for it, David, if time travel is ever invented,
mm-hmm.
I will go back and invite you.
Sounds good. How about one better? Why don't I just give you my thoughts on the books now?
Have you read the books now?
Nope, I haven't read them. Can't tell you. And this has been Air Your Grievances. Thank you.
I think I'll trim out that segment and I'll add it to the first episode of an after show. How about that? I'll just tack it right on the end. So, David, how do you feel about the books? I haven't read them. I like to pee on my younger brother.
Stand idly by as my brother is peed on by my friend.
Right. But by the transitive property.
Yeah.
Why am I
What's he
on
pee?
the screen?
Did you pee on your friend and then your friend peed on Alan? Is that? That's how it's the transitive property going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, you wanted something to talk about to fill out the space. There you go.
You told me you had a grievance like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I didn't say we need to fill out the space.
Hey,
you came to. I didn't ask you to do this.
The guests have voted. You're in the wrong. Move past it, bro. It's water under the bridge. Let's move on.
Okay, we're gonna move on to some nerd news. The Rippaverse is doing fantastic. It's still going strong. You can still go and buy one of their comics. But there's been a lot of controversy because people don't like that he's trying to take on Marvel and DC.
Yep.
I want to do another segment where we just go through a bunch of like reply guys on Twitter that are just trying to bash Eric July apart. It's so funny. Like they're just spreading so many lies.
Yeah.
But there's a
huge
huge
ban him from Comic-Con and all sorts of stuff. It's like, come on,
it's insane. Like it would be one thing if he's like, hey, I'm gonna make since comic books right now have a huge left lean, I'm gonna make comic books that just lean super far right, and they're gonna be Trump is a superhero and he's gonna go around making everybody orange, right? Like I could understand that there would be backlash to that kind of comic announcement, right? You'd be like, okay, this is just dumb, but the other way. But he's not doing that. He's making a comics. He said, I want to make comics that don't have politics in them.
Yeah.
And he's getting so much hate online. There's a very famous comic review website. I believe the website's called Bleeding Cool.
Yeah, Bleeding Cool News, I think.
They have not said a single word about Young Ripa's campaign, and it's the best. I'm pretty sure it's the best-selling single issue of all time.
Nice.
As a first release. That's crazy. And they're specifically not covering it because they don't agree with his politics. His politics being
apolitical.
No politics. His politics are being apolitical. Also, apparently, there's a powder that can make your abs nice.
Wild. The thing that's
Like,
most
why would
frustrating
you
about
hate
that,
this?
the thing that's most frustrating about that is, like, to your point, like, it's not like he's saying I'm gonna have comics that are incredibly right leaning. He's like, I'm going to make them apolitical, and I can get people saying, like, hey, we like politics in our comics, and you can argue that a lot of entertainment.
So go read those ones.
Yeah. And you can argue that a lot of comics and other entertainment often has some sort of commentary on things that are going on from all the way back in time. But to say, how dare you not make a commentary with your art?
That does. How dare you
that's
not
dumb.
make
Yeah.
a thing specifically for me? How dare you make something for yourself? Like, all he said is, and he doesn't even want to get political. He's like,
for all the people
only
who
reason
don't-
he's literally said, I just want to tell stories. Let me do that. And the crazy thing is, they're not just coming after him. They're coming after anyone who has collaborated with him.
That's the article.
They tried to get an artist banned from all future Comic Cons of events because he drew a picture for Eric July.
That's super dumb. And that's the thing too. Like, at the very least, I guess there's some logic behind the idea of, like, oh, it's competition, and we want to try to squash competition, even though in reality competition actually does improve. Rising tide raises all ships. So
competition encourages innovation and makes the quality of comics go back up.
So in reality, that's a stupid decision, but at the very least, I can see a kind of stupid logic to trying to be like, oh, well, you're competition, so we want to try to get in your way.
Yeah, but I mean, remaining apolitical was just one of the points that he was making.
Yeah, it's only a tiny portion.
He one of the other stances was he wanted to make sure there was no multiverse shenanigans. Like, everything that happened was canon. He wasn't going to retroactively, subvert expectations on, oh, this character is back to life, and a bunch of crazy random stuff that comics do. And then he
wants to focus on continuity.
Yeah,
he doesn't want there to be any like reboot. Like, obviously, sometimes there have to be reboots, but he's going to keep like he wants everything to be canon, and he wants and anyone who wants to come in and write a comic in his universe has to make sure that it actually fits.
Yeah,
which is
that's
awesome.
Awesome. It's great. Yeah,
yeah.
My only issue is they've because I went and I wanted to back the campaign. They have 3 different alternate covers or whatever, and I like the first cover and I like the second cover. Unfortunately, those ones are all sold out, and it's the third cover that's the only one that's available, and I don't like the third cover as much.
Well, I got cover number 1, baby, and I'm not giving it to you.
Nice.
I'll let you look at it.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm hoping that they'll come out with a
fourth one,
a fourth cover or something, and
they might.
And then I'll get that. But if it doesn't happen before I think there's another 40 days or something on the campaign. So if it doesn't happen before then, I'll probably just back the third cover that's available.
Yeah. So yeah, go buy some comics that look interesting. That's it. I've got some other cool news though. So you guys we talked about the design for Gore and how I wished that they didn't just paint Christian Bale gray, and everyone disagreed with me. And now it's time for you to eat your words, because check it out. This is the artist who did a bunch of concept work for Thor: Love and Thunder, and now he can release his work.
Yeah.
This is the concept for not knowing who the actor was. That looks so good.
It does look good, but it looks completely different than the comics. The comics,
it does.
He's got super long Twilight things, and he doesn't have a nose like Voldemort.
But this is
I like that.
This is a happy medium, and then he does one that's specific for Christian Bale, and holy crap!
Yeah,
why did you not do this for the movie? This is so good.
I can definitely agree with you there. I think that the biggest place where we disagreed with you last time was saying that it needed to look just like the comics. Because I agree
never
that
said
the
it needed
comics
to look just
great.
like the comics. I said I think he looks much better in the comics, and not that Christian Bale looked bad, but it's literally just Christian Bale painted gray.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's nothing special. He's got some like gross teeth.
I will say too, I do think that it would be like it's, and I think that works with this version, but it's good to avoid putting too much over the face of Christian Bale. But giving
and
him
this
the
is a
Twilight
happy medium,
kind of,
because in the comics, he's got stuff obscuring his face, and it makes it harder to act.
I love the way that they have that like the extra like eyebrow thing going on that looks like it's kind of carved out. Like that looks really really cool, and again should not have interfered with Christian Bale's ability to like really act with his face.
And this is a great medium because you can still tell, oh, this is the person that we paid a lot of money for. You can see his face, but he also looks like an alien.
I agree. That does look really good. My point was I do not like his goofy look from the comics.
Also,
I don't even hate his look from the comics, but I think that'd be a difficult one to translate. These are some good concepts of how you can do that, in between. But yeah.
Also, I really didn't like Thor's outfit was super goofy in the movie, and it was like way too shiny.
Yeah,
it looked I really like this
fake metal that was painted with bright neon colors. Almost,
it didn't look metal; it looked 3D printed. It looked like Comic-Con cosplay, like plastic.
I can't totally disagree with that. Although I will say some of the different, ways that have been presented that seem to make it a little bit better for me was either the fact that once he sees Jane, that's when he first puts on this blue version because he's like he's feeling like he has to kind of beat himself up, and then also the idea of basically the entire movie seems to be framed from the point of view of Korg telling a story to the kids, which there's issues with that as a full concept.
You mean the kids that were in the story and know what happened?
Or no, I thought wasn't it to the
I thought it
from the world from the first world where the Guardians were with him, something like that. Either way, the idea that it's heightened reality because it's Korg, overtelling the way that he sees Thor rather than so Thor Korg being an unreliable narrator with that. So I can accept that, and that fits the idea why it was so plastic and kind of bright and garish.
That sounds like a bad movie with extra steps.
Yeah.
But
those are some really cool concept art,
right? It looks so good.
Yeah,
he's also got some other real cool stuff. So go check out this artist.
What's that squirrely looking thing there?
Squirrel. It looks like a squirrel.
Completely unrelated. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if that. I was like, is that something from the movie? Was there supposed to be some sort of a special squirrel?
No. But he does other things. So
what? Artists are only allowed to do one thing ever.
Yeah. So some more interesting things. This is a nice meme. There have been 3 Marvel movies now that have taken place since the Eternals, and somehow no one has mentioned how the Earth has this dude sticking out of it.
Yep. And I love that.
Apparently, I guess the Eternals was so boring that even Marvel forgot about it.
There were some interesting concepts explored there. I was actually talking to my mom about it yesterday a little bit because she just caught it on Disney Plus, which is kind of unexpected. But
there were interesting concepts, but the movie wasn't good.
Yeah, the movie was not my favorite for sure. And it is interesting to see how does this affect like at least our perception of the makeup of the Earth and like the like massive tectonic like problem. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it would throw off the way it spins. Everything. It would change tides, and it would change a lot of things.
Yep.
Just another testament to how Marvel Phase 4 is kind of lacking direction because you got so many
all
things
over
going
the place.
on.
Yeah,
you got the Eternals thrown into the mix that somehow don't affect anything. You've got all those multiverse shenanigans that there's like 3 different.
How Doctor Strange didn't show up. How Doctor Strange didn't show up to this happening immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always going to be a little bit of a struggle, though, when you've got that multiverse thing going on.
Yep.
You want the movie to be about one thing, but you also want to have big stakes, and so why don't the other people show up? Well, partially because it's not their movie. It's not about them. But then you have to find some way to explain that, and it takes up time from your other stuff going on. And unfortunately, they've gone too far, I think, the other direction of just like not even bothering to say it, which does leave us as fans going, well, I mean, I don't expect that they have to do every little bit of it, but it'd be nice to have at least some sort of a nod to explain, like, oh yeah, this was he was busy here. Like, I don't know, being able to tie that together in a way.
They're also completely ignoring their TV shows, like Multiverse of Madness. For some reason, doesn't have Vision in it.
Yeah,
which
Same
is
thing
which
with No Way
was
Home.
which they used the TV show to set up Vision and Wanda, and then Wanda does a complete 180. The treatment of Wanda is like night and day between the TV show and the movie. And then like why would you not put why would you bring Vision back into it if he never shows up to try and stop Wanda maybe?
Because I guess this White Vision doesn't feel a connection to Wanda, even though
he's going off to discover himself, you know.
And that would be something that could have been explored in the Multiverse of Madness.
Right. Yeah, see that's something that, you know, the Doctor Strange seems to completely ignore WandaVision, which it could have incorporated, and in the same way that Spider-Man No Way Home ignored the events of Loki.
Yeah.
Because they've said behind the scenes that the events of Loki is what made the the shenanigans happen.
If they hadn't said
Spider-Man.
that, you wouldn't be able to
You wouldn't
tell.
know. Exactly.
Yeah.
They should have said something. Dr. Strange should have said something and say, hey, that spell shouldn't have done this. Something is wrong with the timeline or something. You know?
Yeah. That would have made a ton of sense. I think the biggest problem is that that you can tell that they're running themselves into the sort of corner that the comics themselves have written themselves into, where they've had to do reboots and resets and you know timeline shenanigans because they realize, oh crap, this doesn't work, or this doesn't work with that. I mean, you have Kevin Feige way back when said that the MCU was Earth 19999, so that you could kind of imagine that the 616 was still the comic universe somewhere else. And then he recently came out and said, oh, well, they talked about
said
it
twice in
Multiverse of
movies.
Madness. Well, and when you hear it in Far From Home, that Quentin Beck says it, like you can kind of dismiss that because he's making stuff up,
right?
But then they reconfirm it in
right.
Kevin Feige
which is
explained
weird.
we decided to make this Earth 616 because with the comics there are so many multiversal threats
things.
that they couldn't possibly exist in the this MCU universe, so we decided to just write over it. But like you could just have it be a different Earth that's not messing with the multiverses. Like it just doesn't.
Yeah,
You literally have it baked in that this could be just another multiverse. And
I think that I can understand that logic. It's just as frustrating because it's like you can tell that they did do a lot of like forethought, but there's only so much that they could come up with, and so as they've written themselves into the corner, they have to kind of go back on what they've said, and that makes at least us nerds that are like really into it a little frustrated. I know the girl that played Miss Marvel on the Miss Marvel show, she was also frustrated. She kept on, like, she told Kevin Feige to his face, he's like, but no, you said that the comics are 616 and this is a different one. And there was, I guess, some interview and he kind of did a little bit of banter with her on it too. But yeah, he shrugged it off, but it was like, yeah, you know, there are those of us that would really love to,
because there isn't an answer.
All of this.
There isn't a good answer because he doesn't have one because they didn't think about it.
I can't hold it against him because at the same time it's like he could only think of so much. He's only one man. He's done a lot and he's done a lot of good things, but there's only so much he can do. So.
All I can say is that the Rippaverse is just sounding so refreshing right now.
Yeah, agreed. I just think that for so long they were just looking forward to Avengers. You know, like that was the plan from the beginning when they had the first Iron Man. They're like, hey, what if we do this Avengers thing? And maybe it was just like a pipe dream at that point, but they're like, let's just throw these little things in there, and they were just working toward the Avengers. And then once they got the Avengers, like, okay, who can be the big bad? Let's do Thanos. And they worked towards Thanos, and everything was pointing towards Thanos. And now that they've done the big bad, they've done Thanos, they've done the big Avengers event, they're just kind of like, okay, what's next? And they don't have a plan. There's not looking forward to anything.
Seems like at some point they should have sat down and had a meeting and decided what was next.
And probably, I'd be willing to believe that they had some idea that they were like, here, let's get into multiverse stuff. I just think that multiverse stuff is so tricky that they weren't able to flesh it out as well as they could or should have. And then we're in the midst of it too. That's the other thing, is like in phase one, we were in the midst of it. We didn't know what was coming, but there wasn't anything to build on. There wasn't, like, we didn't know what we were looking for.
Yeah.
But now we're like, hey, we're in this, and we can't really exist in that same nebulous place that we were in phase 1, but we're kind of in that nebulous place. You mix that with the fact that I think that some of it just isn't fitting together. It really makes it hard for us to get excited about the interconnectivity of it.
But even then, though, the earlier stages.
It's funny you should mention that because there's a tweet coming up.
There's a tweet coming up
about how it's hard to get excited. About how it's hard to get excited for Marvel.
Yeah,
phase 5. Go on.
So Jared, I do agree with you to a point, but then again, everything in the previous phases, phases 1 through 3, it all tied back into each other. It doesn't matter what you watched; it was all tying back into each other, and that's what's falling apart now. Is you watch the TV shows and it doesn't connect. It's supposed to connect, but it doesn't really connect to the shows. Yeah. And even the movies are defunct. They don't reference each other. It's frustrating. It's like again, Marvel is fallen into
it's just completely
post
scatterbrained
Disney, Lucasfilm, Star Wars now.
It's just that's an equal level of. There's a really similar thing there because when Disney took over and the idea behind
it's almost like they're being run by the same company,
right?
Wait, they are
all canon from here forward, and they kind of tried to do that, but it was too tough to do,
And then they release a statement: "We are done recasting legacy characters." 2 weeks before Obi-Wan Kenobi, the TV show.
We'll see what happens.
That wasn't a recast.
They recast Leia and Luke.
Oh, okay, that's true. But that
Leia, Luke. Well, you had Owen and Beru and Obi-Wan who were recast, but had already been recast previously. Yeah, right. So before they made their statement. So you can't be held to what you've done before. You can't be held responsible for that.
You can't be held responsible for the things you've done.
You can't be held responsible. I guess technically, you can't be held responsible for the things that George Lucas has done in the past.
Okay, I've got some exciting news. It's the next one. I've got some exciting news. I'm famous. I responded to a tweet from Jack Carr, the writer of the Terminal List. He was posting about a movie called Victory that's fantastic. You should watch it. And I responded, it's got 1 like. Who could that like be from? It's from Jack Carr. Jack Carr liked my tweet. I'm famous. Look at me, Mom. I made it. I'm a famous boy. Okay,
Mama Bentley in the chat, is she watching to see this great moment?
No, she doesn't watch my show. I made too many dirty jokes, apparently, on like one of the cleanest YouTube shows ever. This next tweet, I did a bad thing. I made a tweet late at night that I thought was really funny.
Kofefe?
And in my defense, it's because it is really funny. But just don't tell my wife because she might have a very real grievance to air on future episodes because it's kind of gone viral. So
you realize that my wife is watching this in the other room, right?
So someone posted this: "I dare you to name something more exciting than Marvel Phase 5." And I responded, "Well, my wife often gets constipated, and the poop is literally so hard it clogs her butthole. And when that happens, I have to go in with an ice pick and break up the poop into smaller pieces so that she can pass. I personally find that more exciting than Marvel Phase 5."
Oh no!
I've been getting notifications all day long that people have liked it. It's at like 2,000 impressions.
Oh boy!
So my wife might be on the show in the future, airing some grievances. But if she doesn't watch it and no one tells her, she's not on Twitter. So,
oh man,
Oh man,
That's a good tweet, though, right? So,
I think I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another cool article.
I saw that one too.
This isn't like something new, but it just reminded me because we talked a lot about the lighting in the Disney in the Star Wars TV shows. Specifically, it was a little bit better in Obi-Wan, but in the Book of Boba Fett, they had some of the worst lighting of all time. Like you can't see anything, and the reason why it's so egregious is because we solved this problem years ago. Jaws. You remember Jaws? The opening scene of Jaws that takes place at night with the naked lady who goes swimming and then gets eaten by a shark.
Yep.
That was filmed in the day.
Yep.
They took there's a bunch of promotional pictures that they took from that filming. It's broad daylight. But guess what? It looks like night. And guess what? You can see what's happening in the movie.
Yeah. I have thoughts about that though.
What?
Go finish your.
This looks like nighttime.
It looks like nighttime on an alien world. That would not look like nighttime if it was supposed to be on Earth.
That was one of the things that I struggled with sometimes is the way that the lighting seemed, and it was easy to chalk it up to this is an alien planet, but the lighting seemed very odd when they were showing some dark, some light, and the way it was transitioning. And to David's point, the shots that are at nighttime that are filmed during the day but are at night, they are almost too well lit, and you just have the blue filter to go over it to make it look like night. And I get that has been done, and that could be a sign of this is going to be at night, and you can just click into that. But for some reason, with Raised by Wolves, it always threw me off a little bit. So
yeah, it happens all the time, and it's something.
I understand.
By the way,
it's not perfect.
I understand, bro. You didn't go to film school. This is considered a no. You don't do this anymore. That's why. And I think for Raised by Wolves, it worked because again, it's an alien world.
Mm-hmm.
But the point I'm making is that did it look better than Boba Fett?
That was the final point. I was going to say.
So if you're not going to do it,
look better,
and the end result looks worse, just go ahead and do it.
I can get behind that logic because I think that there's
ways you could do it. Star Wars is an alien planet too.
Very true. And it depends on the exact lighting. You can see in this shot, there's actually very, very stark shadows, and that would not normally look good.
They also had lights set up around their campground, though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're still going to light the scene. Yeah.
Again, it's
sense.
an alien world, so I forgive it. But there's one. Like I said, I've been watching the Orville.
Yeah.
Orville season 3, I think it is, the New Frontiers. Fantastic. But there's one episode, I think it's episode 3, you can tell it was their low budget, we're out of money, let's film something filler episode. I still absolutely love the episode, but it has really bad effects, really bad CGI.
Was episode 3 the Borg or the
No. That was the one where they go back and there was the high school on this planet, whatever. So they filmed in a whole bunch of places, a high school, a modern day airplane and stuff. And you think it's like some weird time travel thing, but anyways, I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't seen it, but there's actually a reason for it in universe that I can excuse the bad CGI and stuff. But there's one scene in here in that episode that they're on a lake. And it's very, very clearly in the middle of the day, bright sun, and they just have this blue filter over it, and it looks terrible. It looks so bad.
I will also say, go ahead. Sorry, finish.
Yeah, and that's why you normally don't do this. You don't shoot during the day and turn at night when there's harsh shadows like this because it looks so bad and it looks so off-putting. But again, like this one, I'm willing to circumvent that because it's an alien world, and and again, they have bright lights set up on the thing, so it's kind of makes sense in that setting. But it can be very jarring, and it's normally something that is a no-no. Like you don't do that in filmmaking.
what I really get behind you with, David, though, or not, Alan, is the frustrating part of this is one trick that they've done and has worked fairly well at different times, but they have tons of other tricks to be able to make this work. I don't know them,
Right.
but you were talking about all these different things that they should know how to do
volume.
this. And especially you look at like Boba Fett and like the volume, but there's tons of ways to do this and not have it be so dark that you can't see anything. And it's really frustrating, to your point, when they just make it so dark that you can't see anything and it's dumb and you're like...
It's often not
Yeah.
the darkness
Yeah.
that's the problem. It's that there's no contrast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
again,
is
you can
something
do
I
without,
think I forgot to talk about this. That's something that I really appreciated about The Northman. Have you guys seen that one yet?
I did.
I
yeah,
haven't
saw
seen that. No.
So it's very stylized, and
Mhm.
what they
Very
do
gory.
is every time any time it turns night, it just goes grayscale.
Hmm.
And you can see everything. And it looks
Yeah.
like night. And then like
Mhm.
if he's like holding a torch, it will like make his face like a little bit pink. It'll add a little bit of the color
A
back.
little bit of color come in.
That's
yeah.
cool.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's
But-
not obviously something that you can do for every film, but
Right.
it worked really well because it fit within the style that they were going for.
And again, it's stylized, so
Yeah.
you forgive some stuff like when it's stylized. Like Sin City, for example, it just had black and white with all the red tones, right?
Right.
Mhm.
That's unrealistic. It doesn't look right, but it's cool because it's
It
stylized.
looks like a comic book.
And that's my point. So, but if you want it to look realistic, generally filming in daylight and then just putting a blue filter on it is something you don't do anymore. That's bad practice. But
Yep.
again,
Discussion.
like I said, for the most part in Raised by Wolves, I think they made it work. But anyways, still a good show.
Yep.
It's a great
Still a
show.
good
Bring it
Yeah.
back. Bring back Raised by Wolves.
That's exactly the other point, is that like the show was good enough
Exactly.
that even when that happened, you were like, well, there was this, and it kind of bugged me, for example. But it was fine because you get more to talk about the actual show and about the ideas and concepts that are going on there and the good things that are happening. So
Right.
it's a lot
And
easier
that's-
to be like, hey, yeah, that's not a problem.
Those are my
Winning
main.
cures everything.
Yeah.
That's the biggest, like, as long as you win, it doesn't matter. If you end up liking the product, you see me all the time coming up with excuses and reasons because I tend to approach it with as positive of a light as possible.
Right.
So I find excuses because I'm like, hey, I liked it. And so all these issues, I'll find an excuse for. But if you end up hating it, you're like, every little eensy bit is going to stand out. And you're like,
Right.
hey, guess what else was crappy? There was this, and there was this, and there was this, because you didn't like it. And yeah, so.
Right. And that's the thing. That's most of my grievances with Raised by Wolves is the very first season, the first couple episodes I thought were overexposed. And I brought that up, right? And
Yeah.
I think in the second season, some of the CGI, especially in the first episodes where they have the little tank thing, the CGI looks completely off and it doesn't match the environment. And then, like you said, the filming in day and changing it to night. But that's it. Well, then there was the ham-fisted Raised by Wolves analogies in the first season. They're like, oh, remember why there's a little dangling carrot of the,
Yeah.
But other than that,
Yeah,
I mean, the show
fantastic.
itself is great. It's a fantastic show. It's
Yep.
wacky, it's wild, it's crazy, it's mysterious, and
Yeah.
it's just
Imagine
a
if
great show.
we had actually liked Book of Boba Fett, we'd have been like, hey, this was a really cool story, really well done, blah, blah, blah. It was really cool to see him doing this, that, and the other. The night
But it
scenes
was
were
too
kind of
dark.
dark and like you couldn't see
Yeah.
anything, but like, hey, the story was still cool that they were telling during that time. Like, just, yeah.
Yeah.
But little things do make a difference, and it does make it more likely to be enjoyed, more enjoyable when you have those things. And it's great. I mean, we're in a show where we're here picking things apart. We're talking about every
Right.
little bit. That's why, for example, with Raised by Wolves, you bring up that aspect of, you brought up these complaints, but you really only brought them up because we were on a show talking about the pros and cons of it, and we were just talking
Right.
so much positive, like, here's a few issues.
And if
you
that's the
talk with
worst
your other
thing about a
friends,
show,
Yeah.
then
If you talk with other people,
that's
just be like, hey, you should watch this show. Are you going to say, yeah, by the way, there's some CGI stuff? No, you're not. You're just going to say, this has such a great story and really cool, symbolism and builds on things and all of that. So
exactly. Well said.
Well, we've got a couple bad takes and the bad takes will lead into the discussion on Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power.
Ooh.
You guys ready for some bad takes?
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
all
take him.
Let's do it, baby.
Screen Rants. Bad takes.
A Luke Skywalker series is needed to fix sequel trilogy problems. Or it's not.
Well, the sequel trilogy does have problems.
It does
That
have
need to be
problems.
fixed.
That is
Skywalker.
one thing before they started making all these shows and ruining everything. That is one thing that I did want to see is a Luke Skywalker, young Kylo Ren exploring the universe, finding Jedi and Sith artifacts and just learning about the Force and stuff like that. I thought that would be really cool. But no, I don't want it anymore. Please stay away from Luke Skywalker.
Well, you know that if they did it, it would only
be
serve
terrible.
to justify the sequel trilogy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
No thanks. This one's good. CDR. The Wheel of Time Season 2 behind-the-scenes video takes everyone far from home and equally as far from the source material.
This is the one I sent you. It's so good.
The Wheel of Time showrunner, Rafe Judkins, our favorite boy, throws shade at Game of Thrones plot holes.
People in glass houses and all that.
Because his show is blameless. He who is without sin should cast the first stone. So this is the actual tweet. Someone was he did like an Ask Me Anything on Twitter, but of course he wasn't gonna. He didn't respond to the questions people who were legitimately concerned about the TV show wanted to know. And someone said like, because it looks like they're going to be. Oops.
You always do that.
I didn't know it was going to link to it. I was trying to highlight, and I realized it's already, because it looks like season 2 is going to smush books 2 and 3 together into one season. As I was saying, how are you going to handle like people moving around? He's like, well, the time gaps are very difficult moving to a medium of television with stories intercutting. Should be interlacing, but we try and do as much as we can to avoid 1 hour cross-continent dragon flights, which is a reference to the penultimate season of Game of Thrones, I believe.
Was the penultimate or the last one?
It wasn't. I don't think it was the last season. No, yeah, it was the penultimate season when they're on the other side of the wall and they get in trouble and they send a raven down to the other side of the world, and then Daenerys gets a message and takes their dragon all the way back to the other side of the world and saves these people within like a couple hours.
An hour, yeah. Whereas like it took months to do this traveling on foot. Which I mean, yeah, flight is going to be faster, but not that much faster.
So I don't know. What about the time where the show just forgot that Trollocs were chasing the main characters?
Yep. Or the time when multiple times when Lan just teleported behind people.
Yeah, Lan teleports multiple times, and you're throwing shade at.
Or when Podden Fane teleports behind Perrin when right before he stabs what's his bucket with the Shadow Logos dagger. Yeah, lots of continuity being adhered to in the Wheel of Time.
He stabs Loyal with a dagger that sucks your soul out of your body, basically. And Loyal is a character who exists in all the books, and the dagger would instantly kill him. Screw you, Rafe Judkins. You suck, and you're destroying the Wheel of Time. And the funny thing about it is he genuinely believes this. He genuinely believes his show is better. because he's incapable of seeing his flaws.
Yeah. Capable of listening to criticism.
Yeah. So
sad.
That's fun. Oh, I just got another notification. Someone else liked my tweet. It pisses me off. But we're back to one more Screen Rant article, which perfectly encapsulates this entire segment, and will lead into our discussion on the Rings of Power. Rings of Power's Comic-Con trailer makes fan complaints look stupid. You see, the teaser came out, and the fans had complaints about the teaser not being faithful to Tolkien. And then the Comic-Con trailer came out, and it was equally not faithful to Tolkien, but it had better CGI. So the fans are stupid.
No, not
those
the fans.
weren't the complaints
fans
that we cared. Yeah, the fans, the fans of Tolkien, the people who care about lore and continuity are fans. They don't really care about Tolkien. They don't really care about preserving his work. They're stupid doo-doo heads because didn't the trailer look so good to you guys? I didn't think that there were a couple of shots that did look pretty good. Like the one in the backdrop of this, like of the table, like there were some good sets and there was some CGI. There was also a lot of equally bad CGI. But guess what? Those, remember how we just had that discussion about major and minor complaints?
Mm-hmm.
Those weren't our big complaints.
Yeah.
The CGI was ancillary to the faithfulness of adaptation.
Exactly.
If the show is good, we won't complain about the other things. The Comic-Con trailer did nothing to assuage or to address fan complaints.
Mm-hmm.
It doubled down on the same complaints that the fans had.
Yep.
That must be what it is. Is they're only talking about the
stupid
fans.
Marcelo Liet. You're stupid.
That's what it really is saying. Is it's not addressing the fact that the actual fans had complaints, because you're right, the trailer didn't address those. Just the fans were made to look stupid. So they're not talking about you. They're talking about the fans.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're an actual fan.
Did the dwarven women have beards in the Comic-Con trailer? Oh,
according to the panel, they definitely do.
They didn't. They didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So was that complaint addressed? So wait, who looked stupid? The people who went on a Comic-Con trailer and lied and then showed the trailer that gave evidence that they were lying? Who looked stupid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And two...
You want to know what else? I didn't even finish doing the intro video with the interview. There's more. Stephen Colbert talks to the lady playing the black elf who doesn't have the beardless black dwarf. Sorry, the beardless black dwarf lady queen, who's a fake character that they completely made up. First off, he says, "Oh, your character is from the appendices. It's a real character. It's not. They changed the name. It's what is it, Misa? So they call her Misa in the show. There was a Mies from the books. There is no Misa." And Stephen Colbert is like, "Oh no, this is a real legitimate character. It's actually Tolkien actually thought of it. It's literally." Tolkien says, Stephen Colbert, who's a moron and he pretends to be a Tolkien fan. He in the interview he says, "This is going to be the first time ever that a dwarven woman has been portrayed on screen." And then she echoes the sentiment. She says, "Yes, I'm playing the very first dwarf to ever be put in a movie." And she's like, oh, wait. No, I mean, I'm the very first dwarf who's ever been put on screen in a Tolkien movie.
Wrong.
Wrong, you stupids. So there were, I think, 6 dwarven women depicted in The Hobbit. The first one. Guess who else was in the Hobbit movies? Stephen Colbert.
Mm-hmm.
Was he really?
Yes.
Was he an extra?
No, he had a character. He was a spy.
He was in
Lake Town.
Lake Town, yeah.
Screen Rat, you want to tell me who looks stupid again?
Yeah.
They are telling you who looks stupid by saying this because they're showing off that they are the ones that look stupid.
Yeah.
Who looks stupid?
And in all honesty, the show
stupid and shove it up your butt.
The show doesn't look like a bad show. It looks like a generic fantasy show. It just doesn't look like Tolkien's Lord of the Rings.
Because it's not.
Like all the dwarven women
not
don't
your
have
daddy's
beards.
Lord of the Rings.
All of the elves have short hair for some reason. That was never a thing.
They addressed that in the Comic-Con trailer too. Stephen
Did
Colbert
they?
asked, "How come some elves have short hair?" They said, "Well, because this takes place thousands of years before Lord of the Rings, and elves they don't all look the same."
No, but they're all ageless.
They kind of do look very similar. Yeah. He says, and over time, like people change. They look different.
But elves don't. That's their point. Elves look ageless.
Hail and howdy, SG in the chat.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining the stream.
So yeah, that's my issue. It doesn't look like J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, and they've gone out of their way at every time to say that this is going to be different. We're updating it because Tolkien is problematic. We're doing all this stuff to make his world better. And I know that because originally I thought when they had bought the rights to Lord of the Rings, I thought they were adapting the Silmarillion, but apparently they don't have rights to the Silmarillion. Nope, they have rights to anything that happens in the Second Age, and they say that they can't change anything. Obviously in the First Age and the Third Age, which is the Lord of the Rings was the end of the.
They're bringing things from the First and Third Age and making them happen in the Second Age.
Yeah, so it's super
like
weird.
The Balrog waking up.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you stupids.
It's just a whole bunch of confusing hot mess, and it's gonna be dumb.
We're doing great, SG. It's good to see you back in the stream. We're just we're making fun of the Rings of Power right now because there's a lot of articles to go over, and we need to go to the next one. This was featured in the intro video. Tom Shippey was fired for telling Prime Video that they were polluting the lore, and then they went on Comic-Con a week ago and said, "Oh no, they literally name dropped him. We had Tom Shippey. He told us lots of things, and then we fired him because we didn't want to listen."
Yeah,
like why would you name drop him after you fired him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
who's a stupid?
Same issue with Wheel of Time not listening to Brandon Sanderson, the expert on the show.
The guy
himself probably the next best person to go to for any information about it.
The guy who had to study Robert Jordan's writings and to spend like a whole year writing in the characters' heads to get their voice right because he had to complete the books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do hope, and I think that probably will motivate Brandon so that when he gets around to his own projects, or as he's developing his own projects, that he's going to have a lot more power being able to make sure that those people that are creating the shows, and creating a show is a different skill than creating a book, but hopefully Brandon's going to have more power in order to actually influence things than he
did. We already talk about the news? How he's going to get some adaptations now?
I mean, I haven't heard a lot of specifics, but I know that he's been working on some. Yeah.
Yeah. So Brandon Sanderson said in a live stream, he said this year was the year Hollywood came calling, and he said it happened before. Corin just texted me. I don't know if it's a good text or no.
Good takes, bad takes. I'm excited for whatever's going to happen with Brandon Sanderson. I mean, I trust a lot of his stuff, and he does a lot of really good storytelling. He does a lot of good foreshadowing. So when those twists come, it's all of that's going to be good. So I'm excited. And I think that it would have been really smart for them to listen to him a lot more because he's a really good storyteller and is smart enough to know where he needs to learn more about, for example, storytelling as opposed to just book storytelling.
Yeah. Corwin might be jumping on. I don't know.
Oh, here we go.
Sorry, you were saying I had a point.
Oh, we were just chatting about being able to get Brandon to hopefully Brandon's going to be able to have enough
he said
influence over his shows. Yeah.
This is the year Hollywood came calling, and they were calling before the Kickstarter happened because mainly because of the success of he said Hollywood has kind of been shown that fantasy other than Game of Thrones can work. Like Netflix's Shadow and Bone is doing really well, and The Witcher is doing really well, and and so a lot of studios are looking for. I mean, everyone's looking for the next Game of Thrones, right? And he said, you know, so a lot of people will look up like, hey, top selling fantasy authors, top selling fantasy authors who haven't been published. And you know, and he's like, I'm basically the top on all of those lists individually, but when you put all of those things together, like I'm the only one. You're like, so.
What sucks though is, and I know I often read his State of the Sanderson blogs that he does every year at the end of the year
on his birthday, which is also my birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday in advance.
Yeah,
that's a good cool birthday gift. But yeah, in a couple of the last ones, he's gone into detail on what the process, the whole process of having a show being made. And the thing that sucks about it is there's so many studios that will just buy out the rights to a property and just sit on it. So that no other studios can make something for it, and two, to just see if there's enough popularity for a show to eventually be made. And I think that sucks because he has a lot of his properties sold off to different studios that have rights to it, and nothing's being made.
But those options usually have expirations, and I think he's been
hopefully
learned that he started.
The good thing is that Brandon Sanderson is in a wholly unique situation that no author has ever been in before. So they had already started calling him before the Kickstarter, and then the Kickstarter happened, and then they started calling him more. And he said in the same live stream, he said, I'm in a really good position, and like you said, the options have all lapsed. He had sold some out to before, but he currently owns all of his options. So he's holding all the cards, and he said Hollywood doesn't really know what to do with authors who don't need their money.
Yeah,
and he's saying like, I can basically choose whoever I want. I don't need Hollywood money, and so he's in a wholly unique position. First off, he's seen what happened to the Wheel of Time.
And he knows Orson Scott Card and all the things that happened with Orson Scott Card with Ender's Game.
Yeah,
and
that's
he's
true.
Obviously worked with them on Wheel of Time,
but he also knows that he holds all the cards, and he's not going to say yes to a deal where he's not in charge.
Yeah.
Yes,
and again, like he may as a book author, he may not always have all of the right ideas for what a show should look like on screen. He may not know all of the aspects of it, but him being able to say, no, this is a change that I'm not okay with having because it messes with things, or this is a change that
that character's not gay, or that character's not straight. Like
because he has a ton of great representation in his works. Like in his AMA, he had people praising him for the fact that he has a lot of great representation, and he talks about how he tries really hard to make sure that he puts that in there, which again I'm sure just makes Hollywood even more excited about him because
he's frequently written like characters with autism and like all kinds of stuff. So
by the way, I agree with SG in the chat about Shadow and Bone. It wasn't quite as teeny as it looked. It was a solid show.
I have not watched it. It did look they marketed it as YA for sure.
Well,
And
I
think the
book
books
series
are
is YA, yeah.
but I haven't seen it, so I'm tempted to watch it. I don't have Netflix anymore though because I
think it's.
unsubscribed. But I'm
I think
gonna
pretty safe-
resubscribe when Knives Out 2 comes out, so
There
I
you
might
go.
watch it then.
As long as
Oh,
Netflix
yes.
survives that long.
Yeah, we'll see. They're losing subscribers like crazy.
Yeah.
So not as
I
much
would-
as they said they could lose as much as 2 million subscribers in this last earnings call, and it was just under 1 million.
And it was just under a million.
Not as
yeah,
much
so
as they were anticipating they could lose, but still, that's a lot of subscribers
Yeah,
to have left. So
that's super impressive.
yeah, the whole thing in 3 days. That's a
I think
fat
the
chunk.
closest
of a
I got
book.
to that was I listened to it on Audible, and it took me probably a week to listen to the whole trilogy. And I usually listen to it on super speed, But
yeah,
that's awesome.
The show, I mean, the show started off decent, and then it just completely horrible. Yeah. Okay. So, but we're not talking about Brandon Sanderson or the Wheel Time. We're supposed to be talking about the Rings of Power.
Yeah.
That's a shame. I was going to ask a follow-up Sanderson question, but
Okay, because
we
I got
can
a bunch
save
more
that for
articles.
a later
Okay.
show.
Okay. Because they fired Tom Shippey because they're stupids.
Yep.
They went on this whole press tour about how, hey, we invented all these new characters for Middle Earth, and that's a great thing. Here's how we did it. We
Not just characters, but entire races. It's Harfoots.
Well, the Harfoot
Yeah,
did exist in the lore. They just
Yes.
they I don't know.
But I
if they
mean,
were
you heard from the
fancy.
intro video. It actually comes up later too. But they're like, well, Tolkien didn't say that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right.
He like.
We felt like that was kind of what he was saying, so we thought we could do it too.
You know how what is it like? It's impossible to prove a negative, or like
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is, but
He didn't say this didn't happen, so we're going to make it happen.
yeah, he also didn't say I like to eat macaroni on Thursdays and Fridays, but not on Tuesdays. There's a lot of things Tolkien didn't say. You should be focusing on what he did say.
Little known fact: macaronis on Tuesdays was the origins of second breakfast.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
His macaroni Tuesdays. That's where he got second breakfast from. But like, that's just asinine.
Yeah.
Like the burden of proof, is when someone's convicted of or accused of a crime, the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove that he did a thing, right? Not the other way around.
Yes.
Although it does depend a little bit on where you're at. Apparently, that was the difference between UK and US with the
right here
with some of the trials. Yeah. But yeah, anyway.
But like, you can't. There are a ton of things that I have never said, but if my life gets adapted, and they're he never said this, so we can make his life about this now.
Mm-hmm.
Why? That's the opposite. It's just asinine. It's backwards, doublespeak.
Yeah.
To excuse the changes that they're making.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another nice one in the Comic-Con trailer. In the Comic-Con panel, another thing that Stephen Colbert said is he's talking about the Rings of Power, and he gets mad at Celebrimbor. And this tweet is a little bit wrong. It's not exactly what he said, but the tweet says he calls Celebrimbor the creator of the One Ring, which is not true. Sauron created the One Ring.
Yes.
Celebrimbor created the other rings with Sauron, and then Sauron went behind his back.
Just
created
three.
the other one.
Celebrimbor created the 3 Elven rings in secret behind Sauron's back, and then gave them to the Elven people. But in the panel, he says, "I'm looking at you, Celebrimbor, and you did all these horrible things, and you create." He said, "Like you're the creator of the Rings of Power." And did you ever think about how, in retrospect, how your actions caused all these horrible things? Does that affect the way that you played your character as Celebrimbor? First off, Celebrimbor basically saved Middle Earth by creating the 3 rings in secret. So, even though this isn't 100% accurate, this tweet, what Stephen Colbert said was still really stupid. And I think that it's on purpose. I mean, because Stephen Colbert does know a lot about Tolkien. He knows a lot of Tolkien trivia. Like, he's famous for going on his show and asking people obscure questions, and he knows the names of things. I'm pretty sure he knows who made the rings.
You think he's doing it to subvert expectations, or
I have a sinking feeling that Amazon is changing that, and he's basically being paid to support it. It doesn't because he knows so much about Lord of the Rings. He never would have said this, and like, I don't even know that much about Lord of the Rings. I'm a filthy casual, but I know that Sauron created the ring and Celebrimbor created the three. So all of the rings were created using the instructions that Sauron gave them. He was a shapeshifter, and he presented himself as some other guy, blessing them with the gift of how to make these rings. And then everyone started making them, and then when he made the One Ring, they all got cursed.
Right.
I'm summing it up, right?
Yeah.
I'm dumbing it down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, elves are inherently unhappy.
Oh yeah. It's all about like depression and stuff. The Harfoot character, she said, like her goal her character's goal is to subvert Harfoot tradition. Like they're just like
weird.
Yeah, apparently elves are inherently unhappy.
I guess I can kind of see that, although that's weird.
No, it's the opposite. Tolkien literally said the opposite.
Yeah, the reason that I can see that is the idea that they are feeling like they have to leave and feeling bogged down by the fact that they're in this mortal, very temporary world where they're so immortal and whatever. But yeah, they're always singing happily and singing, doing poems and all that. So yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
That's interesting.
Yeah. There's a quote from Tolkien right here that says the opposite of what they're saying. We got to move on, though. Sorry. I think I'm losing my voice again. But the Lord of the Rings of Power showrunners address. They went on to address rumors that the show, because there's been a bunch of backlash that the show is going to be modern politics. So they went on, did an interview. This was before Comic-Con. They said, don't worry, we're not going to let modern politics influence the show. In fact,
they've said exactly this opposite previously.
Yeah, just like they said, Tolkien never wanted his books to reflect politics. It wasn't an analogy for anything. It was just a story he was trying to tell. And this is what they said. They said, every single choice we made at every turn of making the show has been to be faithful to that aspiration, because that's what we want as viewers. We don't want to adapt the material in a way that might feel dated.
Okay, that. And they said previously that,
which completely contradicts their first statement.
Yeah. And they've stated previously that they wanted to adapt the world of Tolkien to bring it, into more current, modern reflection of society, because Tolkien is outdated and problematic.
We aspire to being timeless. Like, I don't know.
Like Tolkien was.
The movies or the books that are widely regarded as they are my favorite movies of all time.
They went back on their statement again. So they said we don't want to we want to be faithful to the thing, but we don't want to feel dated, and we want to feel timeless. So which is it? Are you making Tolkien's world? Because that would be dated. It's classic.
That's why people like the book so much. right? Because the books, they haven't aged a day, and we want to do the same thing by making up characters that didn't exist, by changing the race of characters willy-nilly for no reason, by like
yeah,
it's such an egregious lie. But it's disgusting. It makes me sick to it literally makes me sick.
Yeah.
Very wicked, tricksy.
Yeah, very wicked, tricksy.
Yeah, what Colbert said was intentionally misleading, and it was very tricky and false. Yeah, the movies are they're 20 years old. The movies are 20 years old. Yeah, I remember seeing them as a little boy, and
they were magical.
Okay. My experience coming out of the theater for The Fellowship of the Ring, it's undescribable. I felt something that day that I'd never felt before in my life, and I don't think I've ever felt that way since. Of just like, I didn't know that movies could do that. It was so good and so epic. It was just shocking to me that you could do that in a movie.
Yep.
And to this day, they are my favorite films.
They are great. Yeah.
I probably watch them at least once a year. Sometimes more. You just get the itch every once in a while, like, oh, I need to rewatch Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And then when you watch one of them, you're like, you know what? Let's pop in the next one.
Yeah.
You can't watch just one.
Yeah.
I have read the books now. I still need to read The Hobbit. I don't know if I'll ever get around to reading the Silmarillion, but I have dyslexia and reading is slow for me. So I loved the books, and my opinion is that reading the books made the movies even better, and the movies make the books even better. Like they complement each other very well.
Rare.
And yes, there are lots of changes, but they are all in service of adaptation. Like, you have to make changes in adaptation, but you don't have to change lore.
Exactly.
Like you sometimes have to squish things together and make things happen faster, or squish characters together, like they did with Aragorn's love interest. Why can't I'm going to sound stupid. What's her name? Eowyn. Yeah.
Eowyn or Arwen?
Eowyn is the human. Arwen is the elf. She's kind of like three different characters squished together.
Yeah, because she's the one that brings Frodo in.
And that wasn't her in the book.
Yeah, that was somebody else. Right.
She's literally like 2 lines in the book. She shows up to get married. That's it. And I think she's mentioned, but she's not in the story.
Yeah, but I want to note though how rare that is, that the books and the movies complement each other. Because how often is it? Usually, it's the books, that are more well regarded, and then a movie gets made and like, oh yeah, that movie's really good, but you got to read the books because the books are better. It's very rare. Sometimes you have it the other way around. There's a couple of movies that I like better than the books, but it's very rare that both of them are so good and both of them complement each other and both of them stand well on their own and make the others better. And I think that's the case with the Lord of the Rings. They're just so well made.
Yep.
So
they're
well said.
They're great films. They're great films. And they've straight up said, to contradict their lie from the previous article, they chose this time period so that they could do whatever they wanted. They wanted a blank canvas with Tolkien's name written in the corner so that they could make their own painting.
Well,
we were not interested in doing a show about the younger version of The Same World You Knew, like a prequel.
Which is why they've got Galadriel
way back, so the show could exist on its 2 feet, 2 feet that don't belong to Tolkien, right? This was the one where we felt we could give it the depth and scale it deserved. Here we go. and the paint ads. It was the one place where we were just laser focused on saying we need to get it right. It's never been done before. People have some ideas of what elves look like or what dwarves look like people like Tolkien.
Yeah.
To give detailed
And
description.
what those
of
kingdoms might
people.
look like. But Numenor was in some ways a blank canvas that we could make a 50-hour show on and do whatever the hell we wanted.
Yeah. This just rings so like false in so many ways because
it completely
technically because
every statement that they come out with just contradicts the previous one.
Well, technically because it comes beforehand, it's a prequel. But if you want to say, oh, it's far enough in the past that it doesn't relate to the things that we see in the Lord of the Rings movies and books, that it doesn't count as a prequel like people are talking about they want to do with Star Wars, go way back. Well, cool, but then so you wanted to do it with none of the characters that we know from Lord of the Rings,
right?
At least from the movies, and yet you have Galadriel, and you're like leaning on the fact that this is Galadriel. See, it's cool to see her young, like from years and years before.
Yep.
What?
Yep. They have Galadriel, they have Elrond, and they have Celebrimbor. If you played the video
Sauron.
And Sauron, yeah.
You would probably, I think you would be able to have Saruman and Gandalf technically, theoretically, because they would have been around at that time too, right?
He wouldn't be Gandalf though. He would be I forget his name of the angelic creature.
Was it Mithrandir or
yeah,
something like that?
I just want to note out that in the time
he wasn't Gandalf at the point.
In the time we've been talking, I have 3 more Twitter notifications about that post I made.
Nice.
This clip is the most recent from Comic-Con, and it was included in the little video I made at the start. But I think it just perfectly sums up their attitude towards the show. Oh, you don't have audio. Yeah, it's like we felt like we had license. But let me share this one more time. Share screen. Let's do a window.
I'm the same, SG. I've never had Twitter myself. Back when I could have gotten into it, it was something that I wanted to make fun of people for.
I'm really
silly Twittery things, but now it's like really widespread, and now I'm like, but do I want to join it anyway?
I'm really bad at Twitter. I'm really bad at it. I've already made a bunch of mistakes. I thought I was responding to someone, and it turns out I was responding to someone else because they had. So the tweet that I was responding to was a retweet, and so I was trying to respond to the person who retweeted it, and I ended up responding to the source, and my comment made no sense. I'm not good at Twitter. But I'm trying to get better.
Like that.
You're not John Favreau and Chef. You're not thinking that you're DMing and you're actually just tweeting.
I basically did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear this?
Nope.
Not hearing anything.
Okay. I'm gonna try one more time. And we'll just have to be quiet because I can't seem to get rid of the echo when I share my desktop screen and share the audio. So here we go. There might be some echo right now, but listen to this.
Hobbit story in this. Why is there a Hobbit story in the Second Age, JD?
It's good. There's no echo.
There's no echo?
Until I talk.
Okay.
There's no echo on the video.
Okay.
Why is there a Hobbit story in the Second Age, JD?
Because it's actually not technically a Hobbit story. It's a Harfoot story. And so Tolkien doesn't say anything about Harfoots not having done anything amazing in the Second Age. He says that hobbits before the Third Age didn't do anything impressive. So we felt we had license there to go ahead and tell a good Harfoot story.
Why is...
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because I
Tolkien
didn't know that the
explicitly
Harfoots are
said
supposed to be pre-Hobbit types. There were 3 different races that were like pre-Hobbit types.
Harfoots are the ancestors to the Hobbits. There are 2 other that combined to make Hobbits.
Hobbits, yep.
Harfoots are one of them. And Tolkien explicitly said, someone asked him, "Hey, are there any other stories involving Hobbits?" And he's like, "Well, first off, Hobbits are very new. there were 3 other races. They didn't exist. And someone asked him about the Second Age, and he said, no, the hobbits did nothing interesting in the Second Age, so there's no story to tell. And they said, Tolkien was stupid.
Hobbits.
He said hobbits, not Harfoots, the ancestors to them, so they could have done something impressive in the Second Age. I'm sure we can come. Oh, but did Tolkien write about Harfoots doing amazing things in the Second Age?
No. Well, and especially since it was part of that conversation where they were saying, "Oh, well, there was the Harfoots and this, that, and the the other." Instead,
the Harfoots, the stores, and the fallow hides.
Fellow hides. Yeah.
Once again, very wicked, tricksy, and false.
He never said that they didn't they didn't do it. So we felt that we had license to do whatever.
I suppose technically they paid for the license.
It's just
it's the same mentality with the.
Here we go.
There was a statement from the showrunners for the Obi-Wan series. It's like, oh, we don't want to break canon. We're not going to break canon, but we're going to subvert with your expectations and like toe that line and making you think that we're going to break canon and we're not going to break it. And it's just like,
AKA breaking canon.
Yeah. Eventually, they did break canon, but I mean, there are things that it's like, that's not a line you want to toe. You don't want to almost break canon just for the sake of subverting expectations. That's a stupid way to go about things.
But I mean, it's so disgusting and evil and vile, and people have been posting the quote from Tolkien that evil cannot create or.
They've been posting tons of quotes. Like if you look at any
evil can't create; it can only distort and destroy or something like that.
Yeah, imitate or something like that. But yeah, if you look at any video
sorry subverting my expectations now would only be possible by making a show that's good, right? Exactly. Like if you want to you've subverted expectations for so long, the only way you could keep doing it is if you started making good stuff again.
Please subvert my expectations.
David, you were saying something.
No, I was just saying that if you look up any YouTube video that from Amazon or wherever talking about the Wheel of Time, the comment section will be full of quotes from Tolkien about how
it can only subvert and
the
destroy.
world of Tolkien, basically. Yeah, there's that one.
Hey,
there's
welcome.
like 3 or 4
Dwight
others over and over again.
Apparently, Dwight Schrute is watching, and he says, "Bear speeds Battlestar Galactica." Thank you for that wonderful comment.
Identity theft is not a joke.
Very good.
I don't think that's the real Dwight Schrute. But man, it's so disgusting what they're doing, and they're so smug about it too. They're flaunting themselves in front of Comic-Con, saying, "Oh, we would." And Stephen Colbert even opened it up. He's like, "I'm going to ask them real hard hitting questions. I'm going to ask them why if they have beards," and then they lie.
I mean, he did ask them
there's no follow up.
Yeah.
But he saw this. But Stephen Colbert saw the same trailer. If you were a real journalist, you would say, "Hey, some people have had concerns that the dwarves don't have beards. They have beards. I was there when we put the beards on." Follow-up question: Why didn't we see beards?
This wouldn't have a beard. This is a dwarf, and she doesn't have a beard.
She wasn't the only one in the trailer. There was that one
None
shot
of them
of a
do.
whole bunch of dwarves
None of them
in a semicircle.
do.
Yeah.
Well,
and they apparently did it practically if they put every single hair on,
one by one.
So it's not like they have this they've got a CGI
what
version.
They did.
What they do is
that's what they did.
They put it on practically and then remove it with CGI to subvert.
Yeah, exactly. Superman's mustache all over again, just clean-shaven dwarfs.
Small side note on that: I went and watched DC's League of Super Pets or whatever, and it was actually I'd started hearing good things, and I was pleasantly surprised. And they had some really good jokes. Like there was one where the villain is looking at Superman and says, "You need to get a better alter ego. I mean, nobody's going to be fooled by his glasses. Maybe a good mustache, but not by glasses." I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So they have some good jokes like that. I will recommend DC's League of Super Pets.
Well, here's a good joke, and it spins right off of the last little clip that we watched. by a tweet by Nerd Cookies. Well, Tolkien
I
never
love that
wrote that this character didn't do a thing.
Cat form.
Like but seriously, how is that the requirement now?
Yeah.
You have to write
Yeah.
everything that your characters
But-
didn't do, just in case
Yeah.
some evil person who adapts your book goes and makes them do those things.
And then they'll probably just ignore that anyway. But I do like
but this
Cat Form
Photoshop
Gandalf.
is so freaking good.
Oh, good. I love it.
Like it's the blending is fantastic. The fur goes straight into the hair, and then it goes straight into his beard. I mean, come on. Also, Nerd Cookies has a YouTube channel, and it's really good. She talks about Lord of the Rings all the time. Go check her out. Give her a little subscribe. She does great Lord of the Rings content.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I can't even disagree with some of the concept of like, hey, we want to tell a story. Nobody says that they didn't do it, so let's go ahead and do that. But they're doing a poor job of it.
It could be a fine fantasy show, but it's not Tolkien.
Well, and they're making.
So don't
other
pretend
things
that it is. Just
explicitly
go and make a
changing.
fantasy show.
Yeah. Yep.
This is an interesting question. How many copies has Lord of the Rings sold since the movies? The internet reports that here's what I do know. Before the movies came out, it was already the best-selling book of all time.
Aside from the Bible.
Yes.
The best-selling.
Aside from the Bible, it's the Bible.
Best-selling fiction book, yeah.
I don't even think you need the fiction qualifier, do you?
Just to avoid the Bible.
Probably.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's number 2 in all books, not just fiction books, right?
Yeah. Right.
Like that would be impressive if it's the number 1 fantasy book, but it beat out regular books too.
Right.
It was already a beloved franchise, and then the movies made it even more popular. I don't know how to find that information, but they didn't need the movies' help, but the movies did help, and made it even more popular. There's a bunch of comments I haven't even caught up on.
You'll have to check out Nerd Cookies. It sounds like they got a good channel.
Yeah, she's got a great channel.
Yeah.
BSG. What? Sorry.
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, I haven't watched that yet.
I watched the original because it was fun to check out. The original creator was LDS, and so he put a lot of LDS lore, kind of tied some ideas and concepts in there. And I've heard really great things about the reboot. I actually watched the first couple of seasons, and then I fell off. I don't remember what. I just got busy and wasn't able to get back to it. But I really did like it, and of course it gets away from some of the things that were in the original. But it's a really good reboot, and it is largely seen as one of the examples of where you can do a remake and do better than the original.
Yeah,
it was really good, and it even did a lot of progressive things. It did some gender swapping. And it was really, really good. You got Katie Sackhoff, who is Bo-Katan from Mandalorian and all that. She's in there as a character, and there's some really interesting things they explore with the civilian versus military life and the different. I remember there was one that I just loved the way that they depicted the good version of military stuff and the bad version of military stuff. That really showed a great dichotomy between that, and it was such a great show. I never finished it, but
I want to talk about gender swapping because here's the thing about gender swapping. It inherently is not a bad thing,
right?
The swapping someone's gender in an adaptation doesn't necessarily mean that's not necessarily a bad choice. When it is a bad choice is when that character's gender is integral to the story. Like Brandon Sanderson, he's talked about adapting Mistborn. He said, I wrote the Mistborn books. They were always intended, if they were ever adapted, they're supposed to be movies. It makes a perfect movie trilogy, and they kind of read like movies. And he's started writing screenplay for Mistborn 1, the Final Empire, right? This first one.
Yeah. Retroactively.
And he said, in my screenplay, I am gender swapping one of my characters because
I heard him.
it's the soother on their team.
Breeze.
Yes.
Breeze, yeah.
If it ever becomes a movie, Breeze is going to be a woman. And he said, I'm doing it because I sucked at writing women. But now I've had like 40 years, or I got 30, 20, I don't know. I've had experience. I'm much better at writing women now. And it kind of makes sense.
Well,
the soother, the character that manipulates emotions would be a woman.
And he said, I remember it was probably along those same lines where he was saying when he created Mistborn, he wanted to show a female protagonist, and he was so focused on having Vin as the female protagonist that he forgot, like he didn't think about it for the rest of the crew, which it would have made a ton of sense. And again, to his idea of he does like to have representation in his work. He's like, I hadn't gotten to the point of processing through the rest of that and realizing that there were other characters in the rest of the crew that would have made a ton of sense to have them be females or have more representation there. And so it makes sense that he's going to do that. Breeze would be a great one to do. It's interesting because Breeze, as a character in the book, goes on to do a lot of different things, and I'd be curious to see how that ends up changing the way that he. Yeah,
but also Breeze's gender isn't important to the story.
Yeah. Right.
But take, for instance, I don't know, the Wheel of Time, where you have a gender-based magic system.
Yeah.
And you come out and say, the Dragon Reborn could be a woman? That changes things.
Yep. Exactly.
Dune, the remake of Dune, they gender swapped 2 characters because the actor was really good, and their gender's not important to the story. Yeah. I want to highlight this. Nerd Cookies does a great rant on why it's risky to trust showrunners. I haven't watched that one yet, but yeah, she's got a great channel.
A calm rant. That's an interesting thing too, because rants are often not very calm.
I'm not good at calm rants.
Oh, you're not the only one. There's again, rants are generally inherently difficult to do calm.
It's in a very natural way, which made all the difference. Interesting. Yeah,
all the difference with BSG and their gender swap on that. It was great, and they everything that I watched of it was awesome, and I really want to get back to it. I just haven't taken the time.
Okay, so they changed a black guy to an Asian girl, and it didn't matter because it was part of.
Yeah. I've always wanted to watch Battlestar Galactica. I almost watched it, I think, when it was back on Netflix, and then they took it off. And then my problem is I can't. I have access to the reboot Battlestar Galactica show, but that reboot started off with a miniseries, and I can't find that miniseries anywhere.
I'd be curious. I think that they might have actually adapted it so that the miniseries is the first 2 episodes or something like that of the.
No,
thing.
It's completely separate. You have to look up the miniseries, which some platforms put it as like one giant 3-hour long movie or something, however long it is, and some break it up into 2 different parts. But wherever I looked, this was several months ago that I tried to look again for it because I really want to see it, the rebooted series. But
I almost started it
to watch it
because I've been on like a classic sci-fi bender, and I think I started watching the first I think I watched the first episode of Battlestar Galactica, but then I decided I was going to do Babylon 5 first because it's shorter.
Yeah.
So I'm 2 episodes into Babylon 5, and I haven't gone further because I haven't made reviews for the channel yet, and I don't want to get events muddled up. And I keep wanting to watch more, but I have not had time to review those yet. But yeah, Babylon 5. I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes of Babylon 5, and I will watch Battlestar Galactica eventually. I don't think it'll be anytime soon.
To your point about doing different shows and all that, I would be interested in doing either one of those. If we want to do kind of like we've done with Raised by Wolves, where we just like week by week, or we even do a few of them at a time. to watch that.
Babylon 5 it was really good. It's on HBO too if you guys want to check it out.
Yep.
So Apple TV's Foundation adaptation changed a character from male to female, and you didn't like it. Well, here's the thing. I just barely said that gender swapping isn't inherently bad, but guess what? It's not inherently good either.
Mm-hmm.
You should only do it if it helps the story.
Right.
Even if it doesn't hurt it, there's no there's no reason to do it just to do it.
Mm-hmm. Go back to last week's episode, and we talked about the one actress who was talking about how she doesn't want to be a female James Bond. She's like, yeah, let's just create a great character can even be in that world that's not James Bond, but that's a female badass, and do it. Yeah.
I will watch Battlestar Galactica, but I think I have to commit to Babylon 5 first. I'm kind of hooked. So I'm also rewatching Doctor Who and doing reviews on those. So I don't know how many shows I can watch at the same time.
So good. They actually finally put the last most recent season on HBO. They haven't been able to watch it for a long time. So my wife and I watched the first 2 episodes, I think. Yeah.
You wanted to watch the last season of Doctor Who?
Yeah, eventually.
From a completionist standpoint, if nothing else, to be able to.
But it has a girl in it.
I know, but gender swapping isn't inherently bad.
No,
and
but
it makes sense in that world.
But bad writing is bad. Yeah,
bad writing.
I could not stand the show.
I feel bad though because she did have like 2 or 3 good episodes. Like
I think she's a great actress.
The actress itself is great. She was amazing in Broadchurch, and I think there was another thing I saw her in before that too that I really liked. But anyways, she's a good actress and she's got some good episodes. They just gave her the raw end of the deal because so many of her episodes are just absolute garbage. But anyways, I am a completionist, so I watch things just for the sake of finishing it.
Even though it's not the same show anymore.
Like I said, there's still some good ones in there. So I enjoyed, 3 of her episodes so far.
3 of the 10?
No, she's gone on for 3 seasons now.
Oh, really? That much?
Yeah.
I remember when that happened. I didn't think it was that long ago. Holy cow!
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah. Interesting tidbit. Broadchurch was also made by Chris Chibnall, who took over for Russell T. Davies.
Right. That was a good show. Well, the first 2 episodes were good, or 2 seasons were good.
How do you feel about Russell T. Davies coming back as showrunner? I don't think it's going to help at all.
I don't know.
Because they'd have to retcon everything that happened the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
You don't know about The Impossible Child yet, do you? Because that's the last season.
No, that's the second to last season. I've watched that. I've watched The Impossible Child. There's a season after that.
The Doctor isn't a Time Lord anymore. He's a black girl who was tortured for eternity.
Yeah, he's a timeless child race that was the precursors to the Time Lords stole their power of regeneration or some stupid crap like that. I don't know.
It's stupid. I don't know why.
Yeah. It would have made a lot more sense to have the timeless child be the master. Yeah. Then it would be like, oh, holy crap, you're fighting like this immortal being. That's why he keeps showing up.
That doesn't need an explanation. He keeps showing up because the master is also a Time Lord.
Yeah, I know, but that would make his, the master's. I don't know. It would make his character a lot more interesting if he was exploited by the Time Lords, and they took his power and anyways, I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to point that out to you, David.
On Amazon Prime.
Is it on Amazon Prime?
On Amazon Prime?
Okay, I'll have to check it out then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would definitely recommend Doctor Who at least the first 4 seasons. I enjoyed Matt Smith's run as the Doctor as well. A lot of people didn't. Peter Capaldi, I thought, did a good job as the Doctor, but the quality of the writing for his run just dropped it ended horribly.
Overall, it did, yeah. But again, he had some really, really banger awesome episodes.
He did. He was a great. His portrayal of the Doctor was really good, and there were a couple of really good episodes. But I mean, if you're struggling at that point, like, it's okay to stop. But definitely watch through David Tennant. And I would recommend Matt Smith's. I liked Matt Smith's run as well.
I need to bite the bullet.
I understand if you stop
and get watching. I want to watch as much of it as I can. I know there's a bunch of the old things that are missing, and you don't need to. I want to watch as much of the old stuff as I can. Just to
you do kind of have to get over season 1 with Christopher Eccleston, which has some really good episodes. And for the most part, it's pretty good, but production quality is a little bit low.
Yeah,
but it gets better
since the modernish reboot time.
Yeah. So I would start with the 2015, which starts in the Christopher Eccleston.
And I've talked about this before, and I know that it's a losing terrible approach, but it's the approach that I want to go back to some of the old stuff as much as there is, and at least watch what there is of it.
The problem with the old Doctor Who is a lot of it is missing.
Missing. Yep. Yeah. I know.
It sucks.
Yep. And that's one of the things that's held me back, but I can embrace the fact that if it's just not there, it's just not there. I did the same thing with Star Trek. I went all the way back to the original
mostly
series,
episodic anyway, though. Like there wasn't a whole lot of like continuity story.
But again, I love using the example of I went back and watched the original series of Star Trek and watching the lore of what a Vulcan is kind of develop and grow, and as they've figured it out and fine-tuned it over the different seasons, it was really interesting rather than just jumping in at Enterprise, which is probably about the time period that would have been appropriate for me as a kid. It was really cool to see that, and I want to be able to see that and see when they make references back to different things that they've done in the past, or
back in the original series when the Vulcans were just people with shoe polish on their face,
mm-hmm. Yep.
and no other distinguishing features from other than a human.
Yeah. Well, they I think they did say early on that they had green blood, and they had like a little bit more telekinesis kind of. I remember an episode where like
physically they just looked like humans with shoe polish.
Yeah.
It's not very politically savvy there.
Yeah.
But, River Song is the name of the character, not the actress. But yes, you're correct.
Mm.
Yeah. If you're interested in getting Doctor Who, you could watch my reviews and then watch them.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those little bits. Yeah.
I recommend it. It's good. It's some good fun. But yeah, I'm liking Babylon 5. It's a kind of a different premise for a sci-fi that I enjoy. The setup is very interesting, and I'm intrigued to see how far they can take it.
To your point of obviously you can only watch so many shows, but if now that we're done with Raised by Wolves and we have a break right now, of course we'll get other shows coming in pretty soon. But if we were to do other shows like a Babylon 5, I'd be down for it. I'm really interested in getting into that Battlestar Galactica and all that, and it sounds like David's ready to go on that too. So either way, it'd be fun.
All right, you might force me into it then.
Well, if it's available for free on Amazon Prime, I might have to start watching that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, Shupal's guys were Klingons, not Vulcans.
Yeah, it was the Klingons. Yeah.
Oh, did we say?
You were saying Vulcans.
You said
Vulcans. Oh, yeah, my bad.
Yeah. I was a little confused, but I didn't want to go off on it too much because I was like, wait, what? Yeah.
Yes. The Red Nose Day skit with Rowan Atkinson as the Doctor.
That's so good. So good.
It's funny. It's actually like better than it's almost more Doctor Who than the current female Doctor.
So this is basically the Orville of Doctor Who.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's like, wow, it's like kind of faithful, but also hilarious.
Yeah. Orville's so good, man.
The Orville's so good.
I actually think I might. Tangent, but... After this, I might actually go and see if I can get started on the Orville. I'm trying to decide if I want to wait for it to actually hit Disney Plus or if I want to start it on Hulu, and I don't know.
It starts off much like Galaxy Quest, where Galaxy Quest was a parody of Star Trek, but it was very much its own thing. It could stand on its own.
It very quickly becomes way more than a comedy show.
It's so good now, but anyway, I mean, it's always good, but the first season was very much more parody, still being its own thing, and now it's just like it's just as good, if not it's better than any of the Star Trek stuff.
I don't know. Season 1 though had the episode about transgenderism.
That's true.
Which it's nuts. It's really good,
and it keeps revisiting that storyline, that plot line.
Yeah, it's come back up. Comes back up in season 2 and 3.
Yep.
Yeah. Unfortunately, maybe you have to pay for the miniseries on Prime.
Oh. All right. Well, I do have some digital credits, so I might just have to purchase it.
Yeah, I think we have a bunch that we haven't used too. Well, it's been a fun show. I think it's a good place to call it. The next 4 weeks are going to be a little bit confusing because we don't have anything to talk about.
No live shows going on right now.
Until Rings of Power comes out.
We can talk about anything. Come on.
But I'm trying to plan some special segue episodes. I want to do an entire episode talking about Brandon Sanderson, and we're gonna have featured on the show Simply Nerdy, another YouTube channel who are it's nepotism. It's nepotism, guys. It's my cousins. So we're gonna do an episode on Brandon Sanderson.
You have some nepotism going on.
We're going to do an episode on Brandon Sanderson, which is in 2 weeks, where we'll talk books and spoilers and stuff if you've read them. And I'm still trying to plan everything out, but it's either next week or in 3 weeks. We're going to do an episode on the King Killer Chronicles, Patrick Rothfuss. And then I want to get that one as next week's show, because then in 3 weeks' time we could talk about the finale of the Orville and how that's real good. And then in 4 weeks' time, we're going to have a very special Lord of the Rings celebration where we talk about the extended editions of the movies, and we're just going to talk about how great they are and how great the books are, and just have a fun time before it's all ruined. So, because in 5 weeks' time, we will have to talk about The Rings of Power, Episode 1. And I'm going to force everyone to watch it because someone needs to call it out. So, yes, weeks 1 and 3 are a little bit up in the air right now, but in 2 weeks, it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I kind of had the crazy idea that we could live stream a marathon, the movies. But I just don't know how it could work.
That's physically. That's a lot of time dedicated.
But I would do it. It would be like an Ask Me Anything. I'm watching Lord of the Rings. You can tune in anytime, and I'd have to stream from my phone. My phone only lasts an hour, unplugged. I don't know. If that sounds interesting, I'm tempted to just stream for 30 hours.
for the are you going to do the Hobbit as well, or just the original?
No, not the
Hobbit. The original is 12 hours.
12 hours.
Yeah, it's around 12 hours. I did it once just before my mission. Yeah, they're each 4 hours ish. I think a couple of them are just under. So I think it comes in just under 12 hours.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Come Rings of Power. I want the structure to be more like when we were doing the after show, where we'll do scene by scene, break it down, and get into it.
Those recap raps were good. That would be great to see you come back on those. Do a
recap raps. Oh, I thought you were talking about the show. I misread it. Sorry, I was trying to skim. I got caught. Oh, the recap raps just they make me sad because I don't know if I could do it for season 2 of the Wheel of Time.
Yeah,
and
I think he's wanting it for the Rings of Power.
Rings of Power.
Yeah,
it's hard, bro. It's tough. I'll try.
Do it for Tolkien.
Do it for Tolkien.
Yeah, wait till it's all over to watch any episodes. That's how you watch Game of Thrones.
It's a good point. The continuity, if there is any, is a little bit better when you can binge a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me.
Well, thanks for
Especially
tuning
those
in.
ones that are iffy. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. And these next few weeks, I think we'll have some fun streams now that we can't talk about Raised by Wolves. But
we
yeah,
can still talk about it.
yeah, we can start.
Yeah, we can start.
I'm trying to plan something special. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So tune in. It'll be great. Yeah, I'll try to make a rap for Rings of Power. But I don't know if I can do it for season 2 of Wheel of Time. It just makes me sad. The Wheel of Time makes me sad now. But thanks for tuning in. You guys are great, and we'll see you next week. Love you guys. Anything else to say?
Bye.
Lots of love. Keep up the community, and I guess we're gonna start watching Battlestar Galactica. So
we'll figure it out.
All right. Bye.
Bye.